Whether you're already working with Iceberg or just getting started, I'm excited that today you'll get to see how you can use Apache Iceberg with Snowflake and AWS. My name's Scott Teal. I'm on the product marketing team at Snowflake, and I'm joined today by Vino, who is one of our developer advocates at Snowflake. Today, you'll get a short and sweet summary of how we're making Iceberg available for customers through the Snowflake platform. Then, you'll get to see it in action. Most of the time today will be spent with Vino showing an awesome demo of how to use Iceberg with AWS and Snowflake. Now let's check out what Iceberg tables are in Snowflake. Before Iceberg, Snowflake has had different table types to accommodate different storage architectures. On the left, you have external tables, which will allow you to really easily query data in place from your cloud object storage data lake. And this data lake could consist of files like Parquet, Avro, ORC, JSON, CSV. On the right, you have standard Snowflake tables where you ingest files from your data lake into tables. And with these tables, you experience excellent performance. You get features like time travel, ACID transactions, and this is all made possible because of added metadata that's not present with just files in the data lake. But what if you want the best of both? Access to data in your storage with great performance and features like time travel and ACID transactions. That's where we're introducing Iceberg tables, a single table type that brings the easy management and great performance of Snowflake to data stored externally in an open source Apache Iceberg format without requiring any upfront ingest. Iceberg needs a way to keep track of tables by name. So with Iceberg, there's a concept of a catalog which tracks a table's current metadata as tasks like creating, dropping, and renaming tables are performed. With Iceberg tables and Snowflake, you can either have Snowflake serve that catalog role, or you can have something else like AWS Glue Data Catalog or your object store, and then integrate Snowflake to read from there. Either way, data is stored in your provided storage bucket in the Apache Iceberg format. With Iceberg tables comes a few new concepts in Snowflake. First is an external volume, which creates that secure connection between Snowflake and your cloud object storage like Amazon S3 for reads and writes. Then for externally managed Iceberg tables, a catalog integration is a new object. Think of this as a secure connection from Snowflake to where the table's metadata is stored. And lastly, when you're creating an Iceberg table, you're referencing this catalog integration and external volume object as parameters. So now I'm going to pass it to Vino, who's going to show us how all this stuff works in a demo. Vino?
Thanks, Scott. Hey, everyone. Let's dive right into the demo. And I have an imaginary restaurant today where we will have orders data that is in your S3 bucket. And then we also have a static menu data that is present in your Snowflake as a standard table. How are we going to combine these two data, one in Snowflake, one in AWS S3, using Iceberg to process and calculate the revenue and cost analysis? To go over this quickly, as you can see here, we have orders data and the Iceberg metadata and the Parquet files sitting in your S3 bucket. We will use Glue Catalog to crawl the orders data and create a orders Iceberg Glue Catalog, which we will then use to create our Snowflake Iceberg table. And as you can see the flow here, first we would start with creating an Iceberg table, which is unmanaged because we have a Glue Catalog that manages it. And then we will convert that into a managed Snowflake Iceberg table. And in this case, Snowflake manages it, but the data, the Iceberg metadata and the Parquet files are still part of your S3 bucket. And then we will go ahead and combine these two tables, orders Iceberg and menu, to calculate the aggregation of cost and sales. And in the end, I will also show you how you can query this Iceberg table from a query engine like Spark. All right, so here is how my AWS console looks like. As you can see here, I have my data in my specific S3 bucket. And if I dive into data, I have my data in the CSV format, streaming orders coming in. All good. So now let's hop over to Glue and create a catalog and a crawler from this data. So the first one I have is a Glue crawler. As you can see here, I have a crawler on what is my data source here from the CSV file. So once we have this crawler, it would build a Glue catalog for us. And my catalog is now built on a specific Iceberg table prefix. And what does the orders data look like in my S3 bucket? This is exactly how it looks. Let's now go ahead and query this from our Athena and see what the data looks like again. As you can see, very similar to what we saw from our UI. And let's also see how many records do we have in the data. It has about 32,000 records, or cool. Now let's go ahead and create an Iceberg table from the Athena again. I'm going to use the prefix Iceberg table, and the table type, of course, is Iceberg. So once we do have this, what does the Iceberg table look like now? Let's do a quick describe. All right, this one is also very similar to what our CSV looked like. And if we see the count from the Iceberg table, the same 32,000 records as the previous CSV files. Now, let's just quickly look at what it looks like, right? So we have our data, raw data files in the form of CSV here, and then we went ahead and created an Iceberg table from Athena, which has the data and the metadata. As you can see, it would have a couple of JSON manifest files, stats, and Avro files, and whatnot. Awesome. So I have an Iceberg table created from Athena in my AWS. Now, let's hop over to our Snowflake environment and see how you can create Iceberg table, unmanaged Iceberg table from there. So here is what my Snowflake UI looks like. And in the Snow site, as you can see, as Scott mentioned, creating an Iceberg table is a three-step process. First, we need to create an external volume. And this is the create external volume command that we're going to run. And I'm going to use the base location as the location of my Iceberg table. And let's see what it looks like for now. Awesome. So I have my external volume created in a specific location I wanted. The next step, the second step, is to create a catalog integration. You could create a Snowflake catalog integration, but in this case, I have a Glue catalog, which is already present there. So I'm going to use a Glue catalog integration. So let's create that as well. And once that is done, let's see what it looks like. Perfect. I do have catalog integration and all the relevant IAM roles and policies have been created prior. Now, let's have a look at our tables. Let's see what they look like currently. We've not yet created the Iceberg table. So currently I only have the menu data that is not an Iceberg table, which is like a standard Snowflake table. Awesome. So I have the static menu data and I have these, incrementally coming in orders data, which is present in my S3 bucket. Now let's go ahead and create an Iceberg table from the orders data. And to create this Iceberg table, I'm using the specific external volume and the catalog integration I just created. So let's run this and all right, it's creating an Iceberg table. Perfect. So now let's have a quick look at the tables again. So we do have the orders Iceberg, which is an unmanaged Iceberg table. Now, let's also have a quick look at what the data is and how many records do we have, just so we know if all the records have been accessible from Snowflake. Perfect. I have the same 32,000 records. All good. So far, so good. Now, the next step is it is an unmanaged Iceberg table that we have so far, and it is read only from Snowflake. But what if I want to do some write operations onto it, right? So for that, I'm going to convert that into a managed Iceberg table. A simple alter table command would convert your unmanaged to a managed Iceberg table. So let's run this quickly. And I'm going to use the space location within my AWS bucket. So Snowflake can use that to store its metadata and whatnot. So let's do that. Perfect. So it is created. Now let's do the show tables again just to see if the table is converted to a managed table. Yep, all good. So now that it is managed table, can we try to do some write operations on top of it? Yep, let's do that. I'm just gonna insert a couple of rows into the table just so we can see what they are. And after writing, let's just see what the count looks like. Of course, from 36, it's gone on to become 41. Now, this is perfect for us to have a quick look at the time travel. Let's compare the number of rows before and after. You can access different versions of the Iceberg table, even in the same query if you want, thanks to time travel enabled on these tables. And now I have my Iceberg orders data coming in from Iceberg. I already have the menu table within Snowflake. So can I use Snowpark to combine these table and do some analysis? Of course we can. So let's hop back onto the Snowpark code. And as you can see, let's read the menu table. Let's read the orders Iceberg table. And then I'm running a quick inner join operation to, aggregate it on costs and sales across different brand names. And let's run this. All right, so now we are done with doing the transformations from these two tables. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like again. Do we have the new table created in here? Yep, so I have the output table, which is the aggregation of sales and cost. And it's a managed Iceberg table. I just created it from within Snowflake. And let's have a quick look at what the data looks like. Oh, I have only 15 records. So let's just see what it looks like. Perfect. Okay, all good so far. And now all of this, tables are created within Snowflake, even for a managed table, right? So let's go ahead and see what happens to our S3 bucket. Is my data moving outside, or do we have new metadata being created within, my S3 bucket? If you go into the Iceberg table, if you remember, we created this managed table to create our Iceberg table from S3. So we have the data in the form of Parquet files. And we even created a new table, a managed Iceberg table, as part of our, Snowpark operation. And even the data of that operation and that table is captured in the form of Parquet files within your S3 bucket. Snowflake uses S3 as the underlying storage, your managed S3 bucket, for both managed and unmanaged tables. So it's only the metadata that Snowflake manages, but the actual data sits in your S3 bucket and doesn't move out at all. Now on to the last step. Now let's see if you're able to query these tables from Spark Query Engine. All right, so I have my Spark running locally here. And let's go ahead and run a few commands and see if we are able to access our data from Snowflake over here. Awesome. So I am able to see both the Iceberg tables in here, the aggregate sales and cost, and the orders Iceberg. Now let's see if the count of these tables match with what we've seen before from Snowflake and also from Athena earlier. Awesome. So it has the same 15 rows that we've seen here as well. So that is good. Now let's just go and select all the records, all the 15 records as well. Awesome. So we are able to query our Iceberg tables from outside of Snowflake as well using Spark Engine here. All right. To quickly summarize our demo, we've started with the orders table as a CSV file landing in our S3 bucket. We went ahead and created a glue crawler and a catalog to create an Iceberg table using Athena. And then we created an orders Iceberg within Snowflake by creating an external volume and a glue catalog integration. And as you can see, this was only read only, meaning we could only read from this specific Iceberg table. So we converted it into a managed Iceberg table, which we were able to write into. And once we have that, we used the data from the menu, which was in standard Snowflake table, and the managed Snowflake, where the orders data came in and did some aggregate sales and cost analysis. And we also were able to read these tables from outside of Snowflake as well using the Spark engine. All right, then. That's all I had for the demo today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you want to get your hands on Iceberg, Snowflake, and AWS, here is the link to the quick start. Let's go build.